80,000 fans fell silent as I knelt on the field. "Ethan, marry me right now," I shouted, ring in hand. The words left my mouth and the world exploded. Cameras flashed like fireworks. Teammates froze mid-celebration. The referee's whistle died in his throat. Ethan stood 10 yards away in a sharp navy suit, eyes wide, lips parted in the kind of shock that turns a man's knees to water. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my helmet. 1 second earlier, I had just thrown the game-winning touchdown in the final seconds of the AFC Championship. Now, the biggest play of my life had nothing to do with football. Security tried to push the press back. Too late. The Jumbotron caught every frame and blasted it across the stadium. Gasps rippled through the stands. Then a wave of confused cheers mixed with boos. I didn't care. For the first time in 28 years, I wasn't hiding. Ethan took one shaky step, then another. The ring box felt slippery in my palm. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell the faint cologne he always wore to my games. "Jake, you're insane," he whispered, but his smile was breaking wide open. I slid the simple platinum band onto his finger before either of us could overthink it. The crowd noise crested again, half celebration, half riot. In the tunnel afterward, the league's security detail closed ranks around us. My phone was already exploding. Coach Ramirez, Ethan's uncle, ironically, stood at the locker room door looking like he'd swallowed a grenade. Teammates slapped my shoulder with stunned grins. A few wouldn't meet my eyes. I peeled off my pads, adrenaline still singing in my veins, and realized the hardest part wasn't the proposal. It was everything that had led me here. 6 months earlier, I had been the face of the Los Angeles Chargers, 3-time Pro Bowler, quarterback with a cannon arm and a carefully constructed straight guy image. My father, a former college coach back in Texas, still called every Sunday to remind me real men don't show weakness. My mother kept quiet the way she always had. Ethan and I had been together since sophomore year at USC, stealing moments between classes, behind tinted car windows, in hotel rooms during away games. 7 years of loving someone in secret while the world watched my every snap. That night, in the locker room, I sat on the bench staring at my hands. The same hands that had just thrown for 312 yards now wore the invisible weight of a promise I could no longer break. Ethan waited outside in the players' lot, engine running. I knew the second I walked out those doors my life would split in two. I stood up, squared my shoulders the way Dad taught me, and stepped into the unknown. The drive home was quiet except for the city lights streaking past. Ethan kept glancing at the ring on his finger like it might vanish. "You really did that," he said finally. I nodded, throat tight. No more hiding, not from anyone. He reached over and squeezed my knee, the simple touch grounding me. But we both knew the storm was just beginning. The next morning, the internet had lost its mind. Jake and Ethan trended worldwide. My agent called at 5 a.m., voice hoarse from chain smoking. "The league wants a statement by noon. Sponsors are freaking out. Nike's on the other line." I told him the only statement was the one I'd already made on national television. He hung up cursing. Ethan made coffee in our kitchen, the one we bought together 2 years ago under the pretense of roommates. Sunlight poured across the marble island while he scrolled through the comments. Some guy in Alabama says he's burning his jersey. Another in New York is crying happy tears. He laughed, but it sounded brittle. I wrapped my arms around him from behind and rested my chin on his shoulder. Let them burn whatever they want. I'm done performing. My father's call came at 7:17 a.m. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Jacob Thomas Thompson, what the hell have you done?" His voice cracked like old leather. I pictured him in the living room back home, the same room where he'd drilled me on footwork since I was 5. "I fell in love, Dad, with a man, and I'm marrying him." Silence stretched so long, I thought the line had died. Then he said the words I'd feared my whole life, "Don't come home." The phone clicked. Ethan found me on the balcony staring at the Pacific. He didn't say anything, just handed me fresh coffee and stood beside me until the sun climbed higher. That afternoon, we drove to the beach where we'd had our first real date, sneaking away after a night class, barefoot in the sand, terrified someone would see. Now we walked openly, fingers laced, and for the first time the fear felt smaller than the joy. But joy has sharp edges. My teammate Marcus, the veteran offensive lineman who'd been like a big brother, cornered me in the weight room 2 days later. "You could have told me, man. I had you back." His eyes said otherwise. Later I overheard him on the phone. "Nah, I'm not standing next to that." The betrayal stung deeper than any sack I'd ever taken. Ethan's family was different. His mom hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. "Took you long enough, Jake." His little sister filmed a TikTok of us that got 3 million views in a day. Their acceptance felt like oxygen after years underwater. Yet every night, I lay awake replaying my father's voice. The man who taught me to throw spirals now refused to acknowledge the person I loved most. Practice that week was brutal. Media swarmed the gates. Coach gave a short speech about focusing on football, but his eyes lingered on me a beat too long. I threw the ball harder than I had in months, channeling every doubt into perfect spirals. Ethan waited in the tunnel after, wearing my jersey like armor. "You're still the best quarterback in the league," he said quietly. "And now you're mine in public." I kissed him right there, cameras be damned. The days blurred into strategy sessions with my agent, quiet dinners where Ethan and I planned a wedding neither of us had dared dream about, and long runs along the coast trying to outpace the noise in my head. I was learning that coming out wasn't a single moment. It was 1,000 tiny battles every day. Some I won, some left bruises. But every time Ethan smiled at me across the room, the bruises felt worth it. The league office in New York requested a video call. Suits on one side of the screen, me and my agent on the other. They wanted to know if I planned to make this a distraction. I looked straight into the camera. The only distraction was pretending to be someone I'm not. They scheduled a meeting for the following week. Meanwhile, Ethan's law firm offered him a promotion on the condition he keep a low profile. He turned it down the same day. "I'm not hiding anymore either," he told me over sushi takeout. That night, we danced in the living room to an old playlist from college, slow and clumsy and perfect. For the first time, I let myself imagine a future where we could be ordinary, grocery shopping, arguing over whose turn it was to do dishes, maybe adopting a dog. My mother called from a block number. "Your father's hurting, baby, but I'm proud of you." She cried. I cried. We didn't talk long, but it was enough to keep me standing. The first game after the proposal was against our division rivals. The stadium was electric with tension. Half the fans wore rainbow versions of my jersey. The other half held signs I refused to read. I threw 3 touchdowns. After the win, Ethan ran onto the field, and I lifted him off the ground in front of everyone. The photo went viral. My agent forwarded a message from a shoe company. They wanted to double my endorsement if I tone it down. I told them to lose their number. Back home, that night, Ethan found me in the garage, staring at my old high school Letterman jacket. "You okay?" he asked. I pulled him close. "I'm scared I'll lose everything I work for." He tilted my chin up. "You already have everything that matters." His kiss tasted like salt and certainty. The following weekend, we flew to Texas anyway. My mother met us at a neutral coffee shop. She hugged Ethan like he was her own son. Dad never showed. On the flight home, I stared out the window at the clouds and realized some bridges burn so you can build better ones. Training camp rumors started. One teammate supposedly leaked that the front office was considering trading me. My stats said otherwise. I kept my head down and my arms strong. Ethan came to every practice, sitting in the stands with a book and a quiet smile that reminded me why I was fighting. One evening, after a brutal 2-a-day, I found him waiting by my truck. "I booked the venue," he said softly. "October. Just us, our families that want to be there, and whoever shows up." I pulled him into a hug that smelled of grass and sweat and home. The wedding wasn't the end of the fight. It was the beginning of the rest of our lives. The calendar pages flipped too fast. Sponsors dropped me quietly. A major energy drink brand cited brand alignment. My agent stopped saying this will blow over. Instead, he started talking about retirement accounts. I laughed it off, but at night the numbers haunted me. Ethan noticed the tension in my shoulders and booked us a weekend in Big Sur. We hiked the cliffs, let the ocean drown out the noise. On the last night, he said, "If football ends tomorrow, we'll be okay. I make good money. You throw a mean spiral at the beach with our future kids." The image made me laugh until I cried. Back in LA, the league meeting finally happened. 5 executives sat across a long table. "We support inclusion," they said carefully, "but the optics," I cut them off. "The optics are that a quarterback just won a championship while being honest about who he loves. Fix the optics or I walk." They promised to discuss internally. The betrayal came from the least expected place. Marcus, the lineman who'd once protected my blind side, gave an interview claiming the team chemistry was off because of me. The article dropped on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, my locker was tagged with slurs. I cleaned it off myself, jaw tight. Ethan showed up with paint and helped me scrub every letter. "They don't get to define us," he said. That night, we made love slowly, like we had all the time in the world, and I realized love was the only armor I needed. My father texted a single line, "Proud of the way you play. Still working on the rest." It was more than I'd hoped for. I showed Ethan. He kissed my temple and whispered, 1 yard at a time. The Chargers made the playoffs. Every game felt like a referendum. Fans chanted my name louder than ever in some stadiums, protested in others. I played the best football of my career. Ethan was in the stands for every snap, wearing the ring that caught the stadium lights. 2 weeks before the wedding, I woke up to a call from the commissioner himself. "We've reached a decision," he said. "We want to make an announcement at your wedding reception. Live on every network." My stomach dropped. What kind of announcement? He wouldn't say. The unknown settled heavy in my chest like a safety blitz I couldn't read. The wedding day arrived wrapped in California gold. We chose a cliffside venue overlooking the Pacific. Simple white chairs, wildflowers, a string quartet. My mother walked me down the aisle. Ethan's entire family filled the first rows. A handful of teammates showed up, including Marcus, who met my eyes and gave a single nod of respect. The rest of the league watched from afar. I stood under the arch waiting for Ethan. When he appeared in a charcoal suit, sunlight catching the ring I'd given him, the world narrowed to just us. The officiant spoke about courage and love. I barely heard. All I could see was the man who had waited 7 years in the shadows with me. When it was time for vows, I didn't read from notes. "Ethan, I spent my life throwing perfect passes while hiding the most important part of myself. Today I'm throwing my whole heart at you. No more secrets. No more fear. Just us forever." His tears matched mine. We kissed as husbands while the sun dipped toward the horizon. Confetti and cheers rained down. Then the commissioner stepped to the microphone set up at the edge of the reception tent. Cameras rolled. 80 million people tuned in. "Ladies and gentlemen, the National Football League has never been more proud of one of its own. Effective immediately, we are launching the Thompson Ramirez Inclusion Initiative, mandatory diversity training, support for LGBTQ players and staff, and a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. Jake and Ethan's courage has changed the game." The crowd erupted. Fireworks I hadn't ordered lit the sky. Ethan gripped my hand so tight I felt his pulse. Later, in a quiet corner, my father appeared. He had driven all the way from Texas. "I was wrong," he said simply. "Watching you today, I saw the son I raised. Strong, honest." We hugged for the first time in months. The fracture didn't heal overnight, but it started to close. That night, Ethan and I stood on the balcony of our honeymoon suite listening to the ocean. "We did it," he whispered. I kissed the top of his head. "We're just getting started." The season after the wedding felt different. Practice fields had rainbow stickers on helmets. New rookies introduced themselves without hesitation. I threw for a career-high 4,800 yards and took the Chargers back to the Super Bowl. This time when we won, Ethan ran onto the field wearing my ring and a grin that could power the stadium lights. Off the field, we became accidental activists. We spoke at colleges, marched in pride parades, and started a foundation for young athletes afraid to come out. My father attended the first fundraiser. He even wore a small rainbow pin. Progress, one awkward conversation at a time. There were still hard days. A rival coach made a homophobic comment during a press conference and was fined the maximum. Sponsors who had dropped me came crawling back with bigger offers. I turned half of them down. Ethan laughed at my stubbornness and reminded me we didn't need the money anymore. One quiet evening, we sat on the same beach where we'd had our first date. The ring on my finger caught the last light. Remember when I thought coming out would end my career? I asked. Ethan leaned against me. Remember when I thought you'd never be brave enough? We both laughed. The wind carried the sound out over the waves. Looking back, the journey wasn't about the ring or the announcement or even the Super Bowl trophy. It was about learning that love isn't a weakness to hide. It's the strongest play in the book. I had spent years throwing spirals while keeping my heart on the bench. Now every pass, every day, every breath felt honest. Ethan and I still argue about whose turn it is to take out the trash. We still steal kisses in parking lots just because we can. And every Sunday when I step onto that field, I play for the kid in Texas who was terrified to be himself. I play for every player still in the closet. Most of all, I play for the man waiting in the stands wearing my name on his back and my ring on his finger. Football gave me fame. Ethan gave me freedom. Together we changed the rules of the game. In the end, Jake's story isn't about perfect endings or flawless courage. It's about messy, terrifying, beautiful truth. The league's shocking announcement proved one simple thing. When one person refuses to hide, the whole world has to shift to make room. If you're carrying a secret that's crushing your spirit, remember this. Your real team is waiting on the other side of honesty. Love fiercely, live openly, and never let fear call the plays. The stadium might roar or boo, but your heart will finally be free. That's the only victory that lasts.